Hi everyone, welcome to Real Time. A couple of weeks ago I got to see La La Land at the cinema and I thought it was high time I talked about it because it's fair to say this is the hype film of the Academy season. I mean, it won 7 Golden Globes already and it's been nominated for 14 Oscars, including Best Picture. So, I got to see it, and a question I always find myself asking when there's hype around, a sort of Oscar gold film at this time is, does it deserve it? Because, when you got 14 Oscar nominations, you want to go to the cinema and wish to be pretty entertained. So that's what I'm going to find out. Now, this is a musical. That should be plainly obvious from the trailer and the promotional material. It screams this is a musical. But it's more than that. It is sort of a throwback to real classic old musicals that you would have seen in the 50s or 40s, that sort of thing. It's directed by Damien Chazelle and it stars Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. The plot is basically Emma Stone plays this girl called Maya. I can't remember how they pronounce it in the film. Let's just say Maya. Maya sounds better. And she is a cafe worker within a movie studio, and she has big dreams of becoming a big name actress. And Ryan Gosling is playing a guy called Sebastian, who is a jazz pianist, and he basically aspires to open up his own jazz club. And that's pretty much the basis of the story, is their two dreams intertwine, and it is mostly a love story, but you kind of have their separate career plots sort of come into play. It's quite a straightforward story. I did enjoy this film. It's got a really good sense of pacing. The musical numbers are all really good. The dancing is just... It actually wows you. That's what you want when you see a musical on film, is that, you want it to be impressive, and it really is impressive. And Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone's dancing in that scene in particular is really good. Although I did wonder, why does Maya have tap dancing shoes in her purse during that scene? It's just a bit strange. But yeah, it really takes a lot of inspiration from classic Hollywood musicals. Like, for instance, that scene... basically they're walking along trying to find Maya's car, and they stop in front of this view of Los Angeles, and then you get this song and dance number. It's fairly, par for the course. But what I noticed during the film was that the lighting looked really weird, because the actual landscape of LA is sort of at sunset level, and yet Mia and Sebastian are like perfectly lit, like it was obvious that there's a lot of artificial lighting going on them so that you can see them perfectly. And it wasn't natural looking, but it was really attractive to look at. And that's what you need to remember when you watch this film, is that it is a homage to how musicals used to be made. So you're going to get a lot of old-fashioned stuff in it. And while some of those old-fashioned aspects can be good for the story, there are a few moments in the film where it sort of becomes a bit just disjointed. I'm talking particularly about the dialogue, because there are a lot of scenes in this film that sort of fall into the category of heavy drama. Like, Stone and Gosling, they play the parts really well in these scenes, and it could be a really heavy drama, a lot of emotion flying around and all that stuff. But then there are other scenes, like where they're courting, and the dialogue feels like it was taken out of a 1950s musical, and it doesn't come across as natural. I just can't help but think that they should have either gone with one aspect or another. It's like, I can't remember the dialogue offhand, but it really did feel like something ripped out of a 50s musical, where I was saying, oh, don't worry kid, you'll get your dream someday, and all that sort of stuff. But then it goes into like a scene you'd expect to see from one of those really acclaimed dramas that are sort of set in real life. And yeah, it just felt a little disjointed, those scenes. Having said that, the cast is amazing. Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, they work perfectly together. And Only other name I can think of from the cast list is J.K. Simmons, and he is woefully underused in this one because every time I see him on screen, I'm just like, right, J.K. Simmons is in this, it's going to be amazing. But he's probably in it for, I don't know, 4 minutes tops. He kind of appears at the start as a manager at this restaurant that Ryan Gosling is playing piano at, and then he appears in a little musical number later. And yeah, if you're going to cast J.K. Simmons in a film, you got to use him. You know, actors like him are few and far between, and he is just incredible. From a technical standpoint, this film is really good. The cinematography, the lighting, the colours, just the entire appearance of the film is just really beautiful to look at. And the editing as well it's got a really good pace to it. It's just really competently put together from a technical standpoint. I can't really think of anything I could criticise the film for in that regard. Although there is one bit that really irked me at the start of the movie, and you know, with a movie, within the first 10 minutes, you know whether you're going to like it or not. That is the time that the filmmakers have to grab your audience. And it basically starts off with a musical set in LA on a motorway, and everyone gets out of their cars and starts doing a dance number, which I thought was brilliant because I've been in Los Angeles and I know how horrendous the traffic can be. So I thought that was a really good sort of reference to real life stuff. So that bit ends, and it turns out that Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling are in this traffic jam in their own cars, and the camera sort of goes in on Emma Stone's character in her car, and she's learning lines for an audition. And it's always a situation where you're in your car, you know, you're in traffic, and you're thinking about something else, and then you don't notice that the traffic has started moving. And she takes so long with this, and even when Ryan Gosling pulls out next to her and he's blaring his horn and he gives her a look, she still doesn't get what's going on. And I honestly don't really know what they're going for here. You know, if you know you wanted them to have an encounter at that point, just let Ryan Gosling to her. She sort of gets a bit startled. He pulls out, and they sort of share a quick glance, and then she just goes. But in the real world, that would never happen, especially if she's going off to an audition. If you're going to an audition, you want to be there on time, not just sort of dally around on the road learning the lines. Now, at this point, I'm going to be going into spoiler territory, so if you haven't seen this film and you don't want to know any spoilers, this is your 5-second warning. So, 5, 4, 3, 1. Right, we good? Okay, so basically, the film is a love story. So, Seb and Maya, they meet each other. She is a budding actress and he is a jazz musician. And they both got their own dreams. And it's basically a sequence of them getting together and they're trying to do their own ventures. Seb joins a sort of new age jazz sort of remixing kind of group. And he goes on tour. He's not there as a partner for Maya. She's trying to do this one-woman play and that. And basically, I'm trying to remember how the sequence goes. Oh, that's it. Maya, she does the first... Yeah, that's it. She does her first performance of her one-woman play, which Sebastian isn't able to get to because he was doing a photo shoot with his band. And she overhears a couple of janitorial staff sort of having a go at her, saying, oh, that wasn't very good, which I thought was a little contrived. You know, she's sort of packing up and then you just hear them sort of go, oh, don't quit your day job, oh, oh, oh. You know, that just seemed a little on the nose for me. And she's really annoyed. She goes to Seb, I can't do this anymore. And she basically quits acting and she goes back to live with her parents. And then it's probably a few months pass and she gets a call from a casting director. And basically she goes for an audition, and in the audition they tell her to tell a story, which is by far the best part of the... Oh, actually, no. I would say the second best part of the movie it's kind of a surreal little dream sequence about this story she's telling, and that's what the film does brilliantly, are those little sort of dream sequences. And in a nutshell, she gets the part and she gets shot up to stardom. And the film starts to end, and she is married to a different bloke. I don't know how far this is in the future. It might be a year or something, but basically she's a big name actress. She's married. She's got a kid, and they're walking along this street, and they find this jazz club called Seb's, which was a really sweet touch. And they go in, and it basically ends that they both achieved their dream, but what they ended up sacrificing was each other. And I'm not normally one for, love story kind of films. And when I saw it, I thought, okay, I just sort of took it on the nose. But afterwards, the more I thought about it, the more I felt the ending to this film was genius. Because what they do, it basically ends with Sebastian playing one last song in his club while Maya's in the audience. And it goes to another dream sequence going all the way back to when they first met. And it basically plays out the sequence of events that we'd already seen in the film. But the difference is they stay together. And for one, it's beautiful. It's a really gorgeous sequence, and the music is so good. Talking of the music, I really desperately hope that Ryan Gosling did play the piano stuff himself, because I couldn't help but notice that sometimes the lighting kind of made me think, I wonder if they're doing some clever editing trick to sort of take Ryan Gosling out and then replace him with an actual pianist. But I really hope that he did it. And yeah, it's just really good. And when it ends, he doesn't even look at Maya, because I think deep down they both know that even though they got what they want, what they really wanted was each other. And yeah, I think it was just a really genius ending, and yeah, it really stood out for me. Right, spoilers are done. Okay, so now for the question of, does this movie deserve its 14 Oscar nominations? Because clearly it's going to be the film that scoops them at the Oscars. Okay, for one, I don't think it should win all 14, because that would mean it would beat The Return of the King for them Oscar wins, and I gotta be honest, that would be a travesty if it happened. But Emma Stone won the Golden Globe for Best Actress, and it's really hard because since it's a musical, you kind of have to judge, the acting differently, and personally, I'd find it really hard to choose between Emma Stone and Amy Adams in Arrival. Ryan Gosling for Best Actor, he was very good, although I'm trying to remember who the other nominations are. Just shows how many of the Oscar films I've actually seen. The directing was excellent. I can't fault the directing at all. So I think I wouldn't be too upset if those three were won by this film, because I feel they genuinely deserved it in that regard. Best Picture. That is a hard question, because I kind of feel that the Oscar system at the moment is different to what it was 10 years ago when the likes of Return of the King were winning Oscars. It's kind of gotten to a point where I think they're kind of looking for like a specific category of films that are allowed to be nominated for Best Picture. Because you look at the most successful pictures from last year, that would be the big names of Fantastic Beasts, Civil War, those types of films. Having said that, I wouldn't have nominated Fantastic Beasts for this award, but stuff like Rogue One as well, those films that were super successful films, they were critically acclaimed, and yet no nominations at all for them, which I thought it's just been a theme this past decade or so, where films that have massive scale, and okay, they are made for the masses, but you can't deny that there is a lot of talent there. And I'm not saying that every single Marvel film should, scoop the awards, or every Star Wars film should scoop it. I just feel like those types of films get stuck with best CGI, best hair and makeup, best editing, those more technical awards, whereas I feel a lot of them could compete for the Best Picture award. So, would I be happy if La La Land won Best Picture? Well, the nominations so far, I've only seen 3 of them. I've seen this, Hacksaw Ridge, and Arrival. I'm going to be seeing Hidden Figures pretty soon, which I'm really looking forward to. Out of the nominations, I suppose I'd be reasonably happy that it won. It's a film I haven't seen. Well, it's a type of film I haven't seen in my lifetime, which is a really old-fashioned style musical, but with sort of a modern touch. And you can't deny it is a fabulous musical. So I wouldn't be disappointed if it won Best Picture. But personally, I would have had Zootropolis as Best Picture, because I feel in my lifetime that was the first animated film I saw that I felt could go for the Best Picture, and it's nowhere to be seen. Kind of says that a lot about animated films as well, is that they're purely stuck with the Best Animated Picture category. And I think films like Zootropolis could break through to Best Picture, but sadly, I think the Academy are kind of in a position where they look down on those types of films, or films that are just made for the masses. And I'm not saying one's better over the other. I like Captain America: Civil War, and I like Spotlight, which won Best Picture last year. So I'm on the fence with this one. I like both types of films, but I do think the Academy do need to give a bit more respect to the so-called blockbuster films, because for every Independence Day resurgence you get a film like Civil War, which was just incredibly well done, and the people on that worked just as hard as the people did on La La Land. So yeah. Anyway, back to a bit more positivity. La La Land, I would give a 9 out of 10. I would definitely recommend it for those who are partial to musical numbers. If you're not a fan of musicals, this definitely isn't a film for you. But it's a very enjoyable film. It has a lot of positivity with it, and one of the things I liked about it, it gives a lot of hard truths about the movie and music industry, about how Emma Stone's character keeps going to auditions and she keeps getting interrupted because someone wants a sandwich, or there are people that are better looking than her and they're better than her. And that's one thing. That was one thing I couldn't quite buy. There's a scene at the start of the movie where she's doing an audition, and Emma Stone gives an amazing performance in this audition, and she still doesn't get it. And I'm thinking, do these fictional casting directors not see what I see? So yeah, and with Ryan Gosling, it was all about how jazz is dying out. And yeah, that is quite sad, but I don't like jazz. It's a sad truth, but yeah, I'm not a fan of jazz. So I hope you enjoyed this slightly longer review than usual, and until next time, I will catch you later.